Well, hey, everybody. Welcome again to the Be the Leader podcast. David McGlennon. I'm so glad you've joined me here today. I'm really looking forward to introducing you to a friend of mine. Timothy Sparks is a guy that I met through someone else on LinkedIn. And when I heard his story, I was incredibly intrigued, and I knew he had a great story, but after I've had a chance to talk with him now a few times, I'm just continually amazed. So Timothy, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, David. I'm just a huge fan of everything you've done and getting to hear your story and connecting with our similar interests of just wanting to develop the future leaders of tomorrow. And as a future leader, I'm obviously very interested into the dialogue that comes with all of your conversations and the knowledge that you bring. And just as we're looking at moving forward, what we can collaborate together. So
I love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Love it. Well, let me tell the listeners a little bit about you first, and then we'll go and expand on that a little bit. And so first and foremost, Timothy is currently a manager with the First National Bank in Wexford, Pennsylvania. And he's pursuing his master's degree at Liberty University. He's finalizing an acquisition of a small local pizza restaurant, which I'm sure we'll get into as well, in the Wexford area. And he's focusing on spearheading an approach to a multi-unit establishment. And as we get into this conversation, I think you're going to find that Timothy is incredibly entrepreneurial. He's got such a great story. And but Timothy grew up in Martinsville, Indiana, so he's a fellow Hoosier. So that's probably why we connected at the get-go, right?
Yeah.
So he finished high school in 3 years. So he's probably like a Doogie Howser. He's just so smart. He can finish in 3 years, and I love that. He finished in Mooresville, Indiana, and completed his undergraduate degree at Grand Canyon University. And this is really the cool thing too. He's a young guy, but he's done a lot of things in his young years, and he's had 7 years of retail management experience, and he's done it with companies like Apple and Chik Fil A. And so just an amazing background, Timothy. Let's just start with, how did you get to be kind of an achiever at such a young age?
Yeah, David. So really, it all stemmed from my past and the environment that I grew up in. So growing up, I actually grew up faced against a lot of challenges. And with that, I actually grew up with a speech impairment, as I told you. I was told most of my life I was never going to be successful. And that was by fellow peers, and that was by my parents and even professors in my schooling was telling me that I was never going to make it.
Wow.
I just grew up in a very small town where people did not move out of that town. And there was just a lot of ideas of, Timothy, you have this big head, keep it controlled. And I'm just it bothers me, honestly. And I kind of want to go a little bit deeper if you on this is, so frequently as a young entrepreneur, as a young business professional, we're told to slow down. And we're told by people who are in positions that are 45, 50 years old.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I say, when I'm 45 or 50, I don't want to be in your position.
Exactly.
I want to be past your position. And
Yep.
so my path of career is not going to follow the same steps that they took.
Yeah.
And so I think as leaders of companies and as business professionals, we need to look out for, are we really empowering our leaders to grow, or are we hindering their growth by telling them to slow down?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I am a huge person that believes I learn by experience.
Yeah.
I was working 60 or 70 hours a week throughout college as within Apple and Chick-fil-A. I was a GM of a restaurant. I was working day in and day out.
Wait. You were a GM? You were a general manager of a restaurant. So and if I'm recalling right, you're a general manager of Chick-fil-A, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Dude, dude, how did you do that? I mean, like, how old were you then?
I was about 20 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's freaking amazing. I mean, that's awesome. That's really really cool. That's impressive. How like tell us that story.
Yeah, and so I was actually working at Apple at the time,
Okay.
and the owner of the Chick-fil-A stopped in, and I serviced him, and we actually ended up meeting at his restaurant, and he pulled me out. He said, "Timothy, I want to talk to you about an opportunity." We spoke for about 3 hours in conversation, and he's like, I want to offer you a job. Like, I want you to come over and manage my restaurant. I was actually hired on as a manager in training.
Wow.
Um, and after about 2 or 3 weeks with the restaurant, the current general manager was let go. And I was
Wow.
handed the schedule, the keys, everything like that. And it's like, all right, it's your
Wow.
baby now.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's amazing.
um, I was still a sophomore in college, and so I was definitely I was going to accounting classes, and I was coming back and I was reviewing P&Ls. Like, it was
Wow. That's
real life
amazing.
experience.
That
So
had to be amazing. So, first of all, there's so many places I'd love to go with that, but that had to be really not only amazing, like you said, a real life experience, but how did you manage the schedule? I mean, you had to be very particular about, and very intentional about your schedule.
hmm so I maintained full class loads. My minimum class load was 16 credit hours. Um, I was able to maintain half on ground and half online.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was going to school twice a week, from like 6 a.m. till a little bit after 1, and I would go close the restaurant that night.
Wow,
So
man, that's amazing. What were some of the biggest lessons you learned during that period of your life?
I really learned the value of people.
Hmm.
Companies are not companies are built by a brand, but they're known by their people. And so
Oh, that's
really
good.
it's all about empowering those people and
Mm-hmm.
sharing that ownership.
Yeah.
I was not a successful general manager because I did everything right. I was a successful general manager because I found the right people for
Yeah.
each position. And
That's.
so most of my job, I spent building those people and building them up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was in the restaurant industry, one of the highest turnover industries, and
Yeah.
we were maintaining a 64% retention rate in
Oh
my
my
restaurant.
gosh, that's crazy. Because what's the turn? I mean, that's way above the average.
The average is probably about 30 or 40%.
So it's double the average. Wow, that's amazing.
And
That is
the way we did that was by actually developing a high performance leadership team.
okay.
Uh,
So
and
tell me more about that. How did you do that? What was your process for that?
yeah, it was realizing that I was responsible for 6 goals, but myself, I was not going to achieve all 6 goals, but I was still responsible for them.
Uh huh.
And so I empowered a director team, and I said, "You're in charge of the drive-through. You're in charge of the front counter. You're in charge of this." And
Mm-hmm.
now instead of when my operator came to me and said, "Timothy, why aren't we doing 200 cars an hour?" I'm going to go directly to one person, and I know who to go to. And I'm going to coach them. I'm going to develop them. But
Mm-hmm.
what they bring to the table is now they have an ownership piece, and now
Yeah.
they have an opportunity, and they get to bring their ideas to the table. It's no longer this is now Timothy's store because he's the GM. No, this is our store, and we're working as a team to
Yeah.
really develop and figure out. And I get to coach these high performing leaguers. I get to develop them. I get to help them find their blind spots. And then
That's
after 6 months, we actually transitioned, and so they were going through phases where they weren't getting stuck in the same role. They
yeah.
were able to move to the kitchen or move to a front counter and
Yeah.
really have the full vitality of the restaurant.
That's I mean, I want to dig into that for just a second because what you were doing is you were developing people in an industry that I've got to say, at least from the outside looking in, you don't necessarily think of a um, fast food restaurant or what's the terminology they use for um,
Yeah, quick service.
quick service. Thank you. I knew there was a different term. Quick service restaurant. Um, you don't think of that as developing people and giving them ownership. And so you were able to give ownership, and you had ultimate responsibility, but you were also giving responsibility to others and holding them accountable, thereby empowering them for their job. I have to believe that in doing that, then that allowed them to feel like they had a purpose, and they had, and I'm guessing you're probably working with other young people that
Mhm.
maybe were in high school, and just to have that kind of empowerment for a high school person, you were setting high expectations. So how did they respond? How did you develop the rapport, and talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was definitely probably one of the toughest parts. And it was honestly finding the right person for that role.
Okay.
And so really what that took was, what are your interests outside of here?
Mm,
Um, I'd love to share one story
yeah.
that really was just an amazing experience. And so one person in particular, he um, he was really great at IT. He loved the IT world. He went to college for it. That was his wheelhouse, but he had never really gotten a good job in IT. And
Okay.
so he was just working at Chick Fil A. He was having to pick up more hours just to be able to pay bills. But it wasn't his favorite thing. Like he would come in late, like just rolled out of bed. Um, but I saw a lot of opportunity in him. And to me personally, when my employee fails, like that's a failure to me.
Mm,
My success comes from when my employees are succeeding. And
wow.
so
Yeah.
I believe in top-down leadership, and that's me serving my employees. My employees are my customers, and then the customers that they service are our external customers.
Yeah.
Sorry for
Wow.
that tangent.
No, I love it.
But
That's awesome.
yeah, so with this employee, just coming to learn that he loved IT, I started giving him a little bit more responsibility over our systems, our Wi-Fi, our POS systems, the cleaning that has to be done with those, the routine IT calls that need to be done. I pushed that off to him. So
Mm,
every week he would have 30 minutes or an hour just to go focus on that. Um, Literally, we had the best Wi-Fi
I
um,
bet.
in any Chick-fil-A I've ever been to.
That's
Um, but what that also brought was, well, now he started showing a little bit more passion in the job that he did every single day,
yeah.
because it showed that I cared. So
Mm,
while he was doing something he loved, he also was getting developed in other areas, and we started training him.
yeah.
He became a junior leader with our team, and just more and more, he kept picking up more stuff just because he was able to have that role within IT.
Yeah.
Um, and really, in the restaurant industry, you get so much tunnel vision. There's just so many moving parts and everything like that.
I'm
And so
sure.
it's always coaching and it's always developing around, hey, make sure you don't get blindsided by this. It was, what can we do so that they're making sure that everything's being done? And that's why we had this development process in place where they're rotating positions and they're getting to see the whole picture instead of just one spot or one particular place. And so
I love that.
um
So
yeah.
you said a word there, Ed, that I want to dive into for a second, and that word is process. And I I know this about you because we've had this conversation. That you're a big you're big on process, and I love
Mhm.
that. How did you? So and this is something else I know about Chick Fil A is that they have a lot of processes about how they do things, and it's so that they can have uniform experience. How did you bridge the gap between a process and the people? How did you like make that happen, and kind of find that magic in the middle?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned to you, I think this is why you brought it up. Um, but procedures across the board are the same. Every Chick-fil-A, we're going to deliver the same experience. We're going to deliver the same product.
Yeah.
But the way that we do that is different. And that's where the processes change.
Hmm.
Um, so with my experience, I've been in 17 different restaurants with Chick-fil-A around the US. And so
How
helping
many?
to 17.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Um,
Okay.
helping to open, helping to train new teams, helping with remodels, helping with when an operator leaves, getting them back on board.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I learned very quickly that if I go into a restaurant and I try and change everything,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. It's not going to go well. My first 4 or 5, I tried that.
And that didn't go
um,
so well, huh?
it didn't go so well. But
Yeah.
I learned that with every single store, the people that we served, they all want to get a different experience. They
Yeah.
either want to get quicker, they want to get faster, they want to get hotter, they want to get in a certain manner. Some people wanted that long conversation in the dining room. Some people, it was the business customers. They just want to get quick and fast.
Yeah.
And so with Chick-fil-A, we were given the tools to empower and to do what we needed, but we were open to be able to change and adjust what really needed to be done with the restaurant. And so
Okay.
whether that's changing a system in the back of the house or the front of the house to make something go a little bit different or a little bit better in that situation, um, the processes adjust to the people. The policies are always the same.
Talk about that. So dive into that for just a second. So, and say that again too, because I want to make sure
Yeah.
everybody heard that.
So the policies are always the same,
Uh-huh.
um, but the
Process.
processes change with the people.
Okay. Okay.
And so we're still delivering the same Chick-fil-A sandwich. We're still using the same ingredients, the same pressure fryer. We're building it the same way,
Mm-hmm.
but the people that build it, the way that we serve it, and the way that you leave that with the best experience is all about the people.
People. Yeah. Wow. It, I find it fascinating that you made this connection at such a young age, and maybe it is because of that you are of a younger generation, of a different generation, and I say that because I think that too many times people in my generation only see things one way. Kind of like back to your comment earlier when you're talking about that 45-year-old manager who um, is telling you to slow down rather than saying, yeah, man, pick up speed, hit the accelerator, keep going, keep going. And I guess I'm curious from your perspective, do you think that's true? I mean, did you think because you were younger, you were able to see more and see before and see other things that other people didn't?
I think that definitely has a part in it. Um, I think it's also just my passion. So going a little bit further from where I was growing up, I was told all my life I was never going to be successful. Um, I really look back on that and I say, okay, I don't worry about that anymore. Like I'm fully confident in myself that like I've
Sure.
overcome so much at this point,
Right.
and I know I will be successful.
Hmm.
And that's no longer my degree here. My purpose now is, and my success is fully stemming from other people's success.
Mm.
And so my passion now is not, will I be successful? My success is going to come from helping others become successful. And
Yeah.
that's really where I think the switch has changed in my
Mm.
life. Um,
Yeah. Man, that's really that's such an amazing switch too, because and I think it's really a key point for any leader to be able to take a look at the people that they're investing in and the people that they're leading. And it's I think what you said earlier is that when the people that I was working with on the team are successful, then I'm successful and we're successful. And I think that that's such a switch in mindset. That I think is so needed in business today. If you were talking to either an aspiring leader or someone that I call an emerging leader, somebody maybe that's new to a leadership role, not management, but a
mhm.
leadership role, what would be the thing that you would say is the most important thing for that person?
Yeah, actually, I just started reading a great book that I'm going to tie in,
Okay.
um, and it's called The Big Picture.
Hmm. Got to write that one
Um,
down.
And it's all about focusing on legitimately the big picture of um, the company.
Okay.
It's looking at and knowing the profits. It's knowing everything that's going on. To truly be a successful leader, you can't just, it's that tunnel vision again. And it happens in so many different industries. I believe, I'm going to say it happens in every industry. Like I'm not, I'm sure, like I don't know every industry, but I'm sure I can say that. Because people, all they do is focus on their own role and their own results. And
Mm,
really, unless you're the CEO, you can't focus on your own results.
mm,
And I believe in even the CEO has to focus on the big picture.
yeah.
He can't just focus on one area to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so really that big picture mindset of, all right, if you're doing something great, to be a leader, you have to get other people on board with you. You
Mm,
can't carry the entire team on your back. Um, my branch last year when I started, so we're measured in KPI, key performance indicators. When I started at this branch, we were at 1 for the entire year. I started in the fourth quarter, October 1st. I worked with my manager. Her and I worked very hard together to really focus in, and we ended the quarter with 6 KPIs.
nice. Nice.
um,
Wow.
this entire year. We're at our loan goal for the entire year. We're at our mortgage goal for the entire year. This quarter, we're going to hit our small business goal for the entire year. Um,
Wow.
we're doing this milestones before we're even supposed to. Um, and it's not because of any type of commission or glory that we're looking for. That's our job and that's our responsibility. And we're focusing on the whole picture.
Mm,
But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end at my one little branch.
mm-hmm.
There is 18 other branches in my market who are not hitting their numbers. And so after I hit my numbers, it's all about me then going and helping another branch in areas
Nice.
that they might be struggling in.
Mm,
Um, as an emerging leader, it's finding those opportunities where you're successful to bring up someone else,
mm,
and to utilize talents and abilities.
yeah.
Um, my market manager came to me and my branch manager and congratulated us for hitting all of the goals that we were required to in the last quarter. And I said, you know what, that was great, but there's two things that I'm still not satisfied about. Number one is one of my tellers did not hit his referral goals. So
Mm,
as a team, we failed.
mm,
And number two, there are 12 other branches in my market who did not hit at least 4 KPIs, which is the minimum.
mm,
That's a failure.
yeah.
And so to me, there's so much more opportunity. And it's looking at that big picture, and not just your own results. And I think a leader is really one that focuses on the team and focuses on serving. Um,
Mm,
as a GM and with Chick-fil-A, I was pouring into my employees. I was giving 150% of myself to my employees.
yeah. Wow.
And the reason I did that, well, my leadership team. Let me rephrase that. So 150% of myself was going out to my leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just so that they were at least show probably 80 or 100% to my employees.
Mm,
And that means my employees were then showing probably 50 to 80% to my customers.
right.
They were serving my customers to that degree.
Yeah.
It's all about that top-down service mentality. I mean, Jesus would wash the feet of his disciples. Like
Yeah.
that's that picture in John that
Mm.
we're used as emerging leaders to be a servant leader.
Mm. I love the picture you're painting here, because it's in a society where everything's about me and the selfie and all of that kind of stuff. It's really about looking outward and having this outward mindset, having this outward ability to look at a bigger picture, and knowing that it's in Jocko Willink's terms, it's extreme ownership. It's like, I own it, yet I want to empower others to be able to achieve the goal, and to be able to how am I going to build them? And I think that I think that's for those people who are listening right now, I think that that is probably one of the biggest keys, I think, in this conversation. And that is to be able to have that outward mindset and look at outside of yourself. Who am I building into? Who am I helping? And how are we as a team gonna make this this happen? Our goals, whatever whatever our KPIs are. Just that's an amazing learning. Um,
And David, I think you said excellent there. There is an ownership piece to that too.
mhm.
And so often we have managers and employees say, "That's not my job,"
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
um, and I just laugh and smile
I know.
because um,
Yeah.
I, here I'll bring this story to you.
Okay, good.
I think you and your listeners might get a kick out of this. So
Love it.
I would love it when an employee would come to me and say, "Timothy, I'm interested in a raise, or I'm interested in the next position." And I
Uh-huh.
would sit them down. And I would be like, "All right, this is great. Like, I love the initiative. Um,
Yeah.
let's really focus in here. Why why do you think you deserve this raise, or why do you feel like you deserve this next position?"
Mhm.
Of course, my responses are, "Well, I've been here for 2 years. I've always showed up on time.
Yeah.
I'm always happy. I bring a positive attitude." And immediately, my response to them would be like, "Well, that's great. I mean, that's what we pay you for. Um, how have you shown me above and beyond that you're ready for that next role?"
Mm.
Um, I would not promote people until I started to see them, and that first they have to succeed in their current role, and they have to be doing all the necessary things. Because I'm not going to trust someone who's not doing well in their current role to give them more responsibility.
Right.
Um,
Right.
you hear people gripe and complain all the time that they're just not happy, or if they were in a different role. And I think it's a lot of excuses, but at the same
Mhm.
time, um, if you can't perform in your current role, how are you going to do more than what's expected of you? And so I would start, for someone who wanted to move up, I would start to give them more responsibility. I
Yeah.
want to see how you would perform in that role before I give you that title and give you that responsibility.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times the title is just um, it's nothing,
Right.
and it's a control thing, and I feel like a lot of people just they feel too much with that title, and they use
Yeah.
it too much.
Right.
Um, and so I did pull up the book for you. So it's called "Seeing the Big Picture."
Seeing the
It's,
big picture. Okay.
yep, and it's by Kevin Cope, Cope. He's the founder of Acumen Learning, and really uh, seeing the big picture for business acumen to build your credibility, career, and company.
Love it.
Um,
That's great.
and
Thank you. Thanks for doing
yes.
that because yeah, I'll definitely put a link to that. That's fantastic. The thing that came up to my mind as you were just describing that situation is this. Yeah, and I know it comes from Chick-fil-A. It's the second mile leadership. It's this, going the second mile. It's like, okay, my job says yes, I fulfilled all of the things that I'm supposed to do, but what can I do to go that second mile? What can I go to do that third mile and go beyond? And I think that's the mentality, that's the mindset that I think any emerging leader needs to have as they go along their leadership journey. And so I'm just kind of curious, is that something that you did learn from Chick-fil-A, or is that something that you maybe learned earlier in your life?
Um, so it's definitely, I think it's a little bit of both. So Chick-fil-A defined it in the terms of
Mhm.
second mile service, and they
Yeah,
definitely defined it with their ton of money that they spent on marketing to
sure.
really um, do it well.
Yeah.
But I really learned it from my father. And to be honest, growing up with my father was very difficult. My parents own a small pool company in central Indiana.
Hmm.
And my father, he was a tough one. Um, he was severely impacted by the recession of 2008, 2009. Went from building 40 or 50 pools a year to zero for
Wow.
3 years in a row.
Mm,
severely impacted his business, had to sell off most of his assets just to
mm.
keep afloat. I
Wow.
saw my mom working 2 or 3 jobs, delivering pizzas, things like that,
Mhm.
just to provide for my family. And my father would get up at 6 in the morning and he would come home most nights 9:30, 10 o'clock, and do it all over again Monday through Saturday.
Wow.
And so I learned from a very young age the value of a dollar.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure.
so from him, that work ethic really developed. All my life, I've paid for everything myself. So the reason I worked 60 or 70 hours a week through college was not because I was bored or not because I college was that easy. I'm really not that smart. But the reason I worked 60 or 70 hours was because I had to pay for college myself. I
Mm,
was not going to graduate with a mountain of debt. In the
right.
business industry,
Yeah.
there is no reason that you should graduate with debt. If you're getting a business degree, you should not have college loan debt because it's not feasible.
Yeah.
It's a dumb investment. Um,
Right. Right. Yes. I
if you're
love
going to become a
it.
doctor or something like that, then
Yeah.
yes, the
Yeah.
debt is feasible.
Yeah.
But a business degree from a community college versus a university is the same thing in my mind.
Yeah.
Um, if you're going to go for your master's or your PhD, yes, I would look into those more scholarly schools, stuff like that, if you want to go into a big accounting firm, something like that. But
Mm,
if you're just going for a business degree, I don't see a necessary means to bring on $100,000 worth of debt. And so,
yeah.
yeah, so I worked all the way through. I graduated high school in 3 years because I did not want to waste another year of my life in high school.
I
Um,
love it. Yeah.
I went to my high school and I said, "Hey, I want to graduate a year early." They said, "Well, that you're going to have to do extra work." And I said, "You know what? I'll just go to another high school." So I moved from a high school that was on trimesters to a high school that was on semesters.
Okay.
I never took a study hall my first 2 years of high school. I had enough credits to be able to do that.
Wow.
Um, and so I I did not take AP classes. I did not do anything like that. I mean, I could have gone another year and just taken all AP classes or something like that. But to me, that was a big waste of time. And so
Sure. Sure.
um, I
Yeah.
wanted to get out into the career field faster than wasting another year in high school. So
Yeah, no, that's it's amazing. It's not too many young people that have that attitude, but I think what I'm hearing is that you not only learned the value of a dollar, but you also learned the value of hard work from your parents and being able to do what it took to get things done. And I love just your attitude about going for it. And one thing that we haven't even had time to talk about today was you're already investing in another business, and you're looking to you're in the process of acquiring a pizza restaurant. And
mhm.
I'm sure that you're going to apply some of the same principles and the same people and process principles that you've learned and applied in the quick serve restaurant business. What's next for you? So what comes next for you in your journey?
Yeah. So actually, there's definitely 4 P's that I like to focus on. So people, process, profit, and product.
Okay.
Um, and so really it's those 4 P's that make up a really successful company, a successful industry. And so again, looking at that big picture, you really have to see all of those things to have success in that area.
Hmm.
So like you said, I am in the middle of acquiring just a local pizza restaurant.
Hmm.
Um, we're talking about expansion already. We're looking at what those next steps are.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. We have some big things in the pipeline that we're working on. Maybe even a pizza subscription service could be coming out.
Oh
Um,
yes, I love it.
so you subscribe to everything nowadays, and
Yeah.
loyalty programs are 7 years old. They're a thing of the past, and so
Mm,
restaurants have to adapt as well. And
yeah.
so we're looking to be ahead in the industry. We're looking to be take this mom and pop shop that's delivering great product fresh ingredients, a wood-fired pizza that's built on a canvas of dough that's handmade in-house, and deliver that to our customers in multiple ways and avenues. And so um, the company right now it's not doing very well financially, but I really think that the right people in the right places can really change that around. And so me and
Yeah,
my partner really think we can take it to the next level. And so
I have no
yeah,
doubt.
stay tuned for that.
Well, you'll have to let me know when the acquisition's complete, so that I can make sure that I visit the and on my Friday pizza night, we'll get it for my family, and we'll make sure we add our business to it.
Well, we love that. Yeah. And for me personally, like I said, my passion now is really coming from helping others become successful. And so,
Mm,
um, my end goal has always been, and really that passion, I think, even came and stemmed from my parents owning a small business. And so,
mm,
I would love to see myself move more into a small business consulting role.
yeah.
Um, so it was actually during one of your emerging leaders um, shows that you were consulting with someone else about getting their master's, and that's actually why I decided to jump in and get my master's.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Cool.
and and so huge shout out for everything you're doing with that team and everything
Wow.
like that. And
Thank
so
you.
and just the challenges that I think that team brings throughout the conversations.
Yeah.
It challenged me completely for that viability factor of why is someone going to trust me? Well, not only from the experience, but also, I mean, I'm putting in the work to get that education factor as well. And so,
Mm,
to me, all the way throughout college, I said, I'm doing this for the piece of paper. Um, and for my master's, I'm doing it for the piece of paper, but I'm also doing it to really learn and grow my mindset in a different way. And I think that's what a master's really brings to the table. It's
yeah.
just a different way of critical thinking.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your journey too. And I know we only, created just a little like top of the waves conversation here today. But just as we wrap up, what's one thing or two things that you would leave the listeners with today that they could take away and just implement in their own life? Anything that comes to mind, or anything that you'd like to share, just as kind of final words today?
um, nothing new to bring to the table, but if I could just reiterate, like just that approach of top-down leadership.
Mm,
Um, really, as someone who wants to grow in an industry and as someone who, as a young leader in the industry, um, I have to be careful because I like to focus a lot on my growth. Um, I hate to be stuck in bubbles. I hate to be stuck in positions. I'm always looking to grow in a new way. And sometimes I would say this to your leaders as well. True growth, the thing about a good trainer is they really know something when they can train it.
yeah.
If you know something well enough that you can train someone else, that's when you know something. That's
Mm,
when you're an expert. And so I think true growth really happens not when you can do results, but when you can train someone else and grow someone else to
mm,
bring that results as well. And you
love
can coach them up and you can provide that feedback.
it. Mm,
Um, and I'm sure that and I'm not sure about your listeners, but there is a huge difference between feedback and coaching.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Feedback is very much in the moment. Coaching is it's a longer conversation. It's a correcting. It's an encouraging factor as well. Feedback and coaching does not have to be bad,
Right,
and look for
absolutely.
opportunities to make it good. Um,
Exactly.
and focus it around the core competencies or the core characteristics around your company.
Yeah.
If your core competency at your company is trust, um, or if it's respect, all your coaching and all your conversations need to be around that. And that's how you hit
Back.
results.
Yeah.
Yep. Just
Yeah.
keep
Point
going
back.
back to
Yeah.
your mission statement or your vision.
Yeah. I think and sometimes that can be the part that is, quote unquote boring, but that constant repetition is what brings that to light, and that
Mhm.
behavior to light, and it actually makes it part of the institution. I'm sure that at Chick-fil-A, I mean, you had things that you had to do over and over and over and over again. I mean, it's just like a checklist, and you do it the same way through the same time, because you want it to be habit. You want it to be able to just be automatic. And so I totally agree. And I think that that's a great place to land today. Thank you so much for your time, Timothy. Thanks for sharing your story. I hope this has been inspirational for other people listening, because every time I talk to you, it's inspirational. I pick something else up. And I love learning, because and I think that's the thing that these conversations do, is that as we're in the moment, I'm learning things, you're sharing things, and I'm hoping that our listeners are learning things too. So I'd love for the listeners to share back with us, what's some things that you've learned, what are some things that came out of this conversation that you're going to apply in your own life, and share that wherever you're watching this, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's in the Emerging Leaders portal, or whether it's you're listening to it on a podcast, and just share it back with us. Love to hear your reflections and your response, and some of the things that you can apply to change your life and to change your leadership. So, Timothy, thanks again. Appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. Thanks, David.
Thanks, everybody. And until next time, be well.